Ruth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego, and I'm a photographer who specializes in posing and directing my couples a lot more so than other photographers. And today I'm going to be giving couples and photographers, this is going to be great for you too, the top posing mistakes that I see couples make. Now, these are only mistakes because they don't know the right way to do it. So these aren't necessarily bad things. They're just things that I see, and I guess I would call them maybe more bad habits than mistakes. So I'm going to start off with the first one, and that is slouching. Oh my gosh, people slouch so much. I slouch all the time. It's just human nature. Unless you have been trained to sit perfectly upright your entire life, which go you, most people are going to be slouching. Now, the variations that I see of this are shoulders kind of hunched forward or just in place, but they could be further back. So that makes a huge difference. It makes you look more confident. It's just much better to look at. Now, the second one I see sometimes is when people start kind of shrugging. So it's not really slouch, but it's still to do with the shoulders. This makes you look really uncomfortable and not at ease, and it makes you look like you're really tense and nervous. Shoulders away from the ears. All of a sudden, you have a neck again, and you don't look super tense. So that's a huge thing I see. I'm constantly telling my couples shoulders back and down, shoulders away from the ear. Those are really big things surrounding the shoulders. Now, the second one I want to go into, because it just popped into my mind, is the fear of having a fat arm. Okay, so people's arms are going to look different when they are just loose and relaxed versus when they're pressed into the body. So I'll kind of show you guys what that is like. So my arm is kind of loose here. I already don't like the way it looks, but if I squeeze it in tight, you're going to see that it is going to look a lot bigger. So instead of doing like, hey, that's the pose that a lot of women like to do in photos, is this whole like, oh, like very hard right angle. You don't need to do that to make your arm look thin, whether you're in a wedding photo or a girls' night out photo. This is not a great look. Hard right angles really draw the eye in. They're a lot more masculine, they're not feminine. All you need to do is simply rest your hand on your thigh or in a pocket and bring that elbow slightly away from your waistline. This can also apply in side photos, so I'm going to try to show you guys what I mean by this. Okay, so I'm right here. Here's my fat squished arm, which yes, I know it's not really fat, but we all like to think our arm is fat when it's squished. So if I'm going to sit up a little bit taller for you guys. So if I'm here and I am like holding on to the groom, I'm just like this. My arm looks pretty big. I can move it away a little bit and that will thin out the arm. Or one thing I can do is kind of slide it back. And if my shirt was a little bit more fitted, this is almost going to give you more of a waistline. So if you can get to the point where you can see some space between your elbow and your back, that is going to really carve out your waist, because if it's here, it's really adding a lot more depth to the side. But if it's here, we can suddenly see your waistline. So we don't think that your waist includes all that bulk of your arm. Now, in case you're thinking like, oh, right angle again, just smooth it down and kind of have a long line, a long diagonal line going down. There's a lot of ways that you can make this look natural, but generally just kind of loosely, I don't know, embracing your thigh really works. Let's talk about hands since I just talked about arms. I'll get back more to the face in just a second. For hands, a lot of couples will do this. This is what we call shrimp cocktail hands in the wedding industry. So instead of holding hands like this, hold hands like this, really loosely. It's a very delicate way of hand holding, almost as if I pushed you two apart gently, your hands would fall off. So we don't want a death grip, we don't want a shrimp cocktail, we want a very nice loose hand hold. Now, my next tip is going to be talking about your hips and your waist. I always tell my couples and other photographers, whatever is closest to the camera is going to look larger, whatever is further away is going to look smaller. So if you don't really like your waist, or just in general, I do this for most couples, what I will do is, let me see if I can get my hips shown in here. Okay, so say I'm kind of pushing forward a little bit. Some people stand like that. I'm gonna do it on my tippy toes. So you're kind of pushing forward. If I all of a sudden kind of lean my hips back, I am going to get a smaller waist. And I know that's a little hard to see on here, but it is much more obvious in a full body shot. So instead of like even standing straight up, push the hips back a little bit. It is so subtle, but it really can make a huge difference for a lot of people. Some people tend to like lean back, and this is a two-part thing. Never lean back from the camera because you're scared of how you're looking. Always kind of hinge forward because, again, whatever's closest to the camera looks larger. So if you're hinging forward from the hips a little, your hips are going to look smaller and the rest of you is going to be a lot more present. It's not going to make your head look big, but it is going to make that waist look smaller because your waist is no longer the first thing that's hitting the camera. Okay, so now let's talk about the face. One of the biggest things that I see couples making, and most of the time it's grooms, is when they do this. I've talked about this before. That's not a good look. Okay, so what I encourage my grooms to do, they almost always think it sounds super weird and they're like, oh, I don't think that's gonna work. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. It's totally gonna work. So is to, instead of having that or having this, which gives you double chin or just takes away your jawline, you're going to want to make sure that instead of like here, your chin is kind of straight on, so it's down, and then forward. Okay, so depending on how large somebody's neck is or what their posture is like, I might have them come more forward, but you can see the more forward I'm coming, the more defined my jaw is. Okay, so if I'm up here again, not a lot of jaw action going on. If I'm down here, much better. I do this for my driver's license photo and it helps a ton, but this is something that I do with a lot of my couples. I'll say chin, forward, and down. Now that does not mean like this. We don't want that. That just means more straight ahead and then just out from your body. And now it might feel like you're sticking your neck out 20 feet in the air. You're not. If I ever see that my couple has gone too far, I'll say reel it back a bit, okay? Because I want it to look natural. But with my fiance, for example, he has a really bad habit of doing this. And I have finally gotten him into the habit of chin forward and down. And he showed me a photo of himself the other day where he did that on his own. And I said, it looks so good. Like I can see your jawline. It's perfect. So that is a huge tip that I often use with my couples to make sure that their faces look their best, their necks look a lot more slender, and their jawline is a lot more defined, especially for men. Now, another thing I want to talk about that's kind of a posing mistake is body language. When I have couples working together and facing each other, I never want them kind of facing each other, but like one of them is out and not connected, but they're kissing. Okay, so whenever you kind of have the hips turned away, unless it's strategically done, it looks awkward. So always get in there and embrace them. Don't be afraid to go hips to hips. This is an engagement session or a wedding. You two are married or getting married. So get close. Don't be turned off with your body language. Also, grooms. Biggest thing I see in other photographers' work that drives me absolutely nuts is what I call the dead arm. When the couple is kissing or something romantic and the groom's arm is just dangling by his side. What's it doing? I don't know. It doesn't have a purpose. It's not in his pocket. It's not holding something. It's not wrapping it around the arms of the bride. It's just dangling dead like a fish out at sea. That is not good. That is such a bad thing. When I have attended photography conferences in the past, when I go and watch the competitions, that was the number one thing they were critiquing for portraits, was the dead arm of the groom, sometimes of the bride. Give yourself somewhere to put your hands. If you're not sure, ask your photographer. If nothing else, wrap it around your loved one. Hold on to them. Make sure that you guys are connected. If it's not in a place where it can be wrapping around them, stick it in your pocket. That's a pretty suave look. It's very easy. Or hold on to something. I don't know, like just make it have a purpose. Hands dangling out in the sea that don't have a purpose or aren't nicely posed look awkward and they draw attention away from your face and your expressions. So that is a huge tip. Just don't let yourself have a dead arm. The last thing is a really forced smile. I tell all of my couples to practice their smile and practice telling each other things or thinking of things that will kind of elicit a natural smile. I'm also trying to help them do this on the day, but every now and then I have a couple, usually it's a groom, it's almost always a groom, whose smile is just so obviously forced, and no matter what I do, no matter how many jokes I make, no matter how comfortable I try to make them, their smile just looks forced. So this is where it comes in to have a good attitude and to want to be there. And if you're feeling really, really nervous and that's why your smile looks forced, have a beer, do something fun, walk around a little bit, shake it out. Do whatever you need to do to feel more relaxed so your smile is not like, that's no good. You need to have a real smile like this. So it's definitely something that I recommend practicing in the mirror together. Try to think of things that make you laugh or smile. It's really worth it and it's not stupid. I do it when I'm prepping for something and I need to have a certain look. I make sure that I know how that look feels when it looks at me in the mirror so that I know that I can produce that same look on camera. So that's just a really great tip of not having a forced smile. If you need music, if you need cocktails, if you need, I don't know, the photographer to make silly jokes, like whatever it is that's gonna get you to have that real smile, communicate that and work with your photographer or your significant other to ensure that you look naturally happy in your photos. Hope you guys enjoyed these posing mistakes / habits. These are the top ones that I see over and over and over again. If I ever think of more, I will do a part 2 for you guys. Let me know down in the comments below which one of these you think you might have a problem with that you're gonna need to be practicing. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!